If you cannot control where your attention goes, you will never control where your life goes. And most people do not even realize they are being robbed until their peace, their purpose, and their years are already gone. Stop chasing the noise. Stop bending your life around people who do not even know where they are going. Stop asking the world for permission to become who you were meant to be. There comes a moment in a person's life when the pain of distraction becomes heavier than the fear of change. Maybe this is that moment for you. Maybe this is the moment you finally understand that your exhaustion is not coming from hard work. It is coming from divided attention. It is coming from giving your mind to things that do not deserve it. It is coming from waking up each day and pouring your energy into comparison, into approval, into worry, into people who are not building your future, into habits that steal your spirit while pretending to comfort you. And then you wonder why you feel weak. You wonder why you feel lost. You wonder why nothing stays stable. But look carefully. A life cannot fall into place when the mind is scattered in 1,000 directions. Most people do not fail because they are incapable. They fail because they are fragmented. Their body is in one place, their mind in another, their attention in 10 other places, and their heart is chained to opinions that change every hour. They say they want peace, but they feed chaos. They say they want growth, but they protect comfort. They say they want clarity, but they entertain confusion. And then they ask why their path feels heavy. How can it not feel heavy when you are trying to move forward while carrying everything that was never yours to carry? Focus is not just a productivity tool. Focus is a form of self-respect. It is the decision to say, my life is too precious to be wasted on nonsense. My energy is too sacred to be thrown into every argument, every insecurity, every meaningless race. My mind is not a public space where every fear, every trend, every opinion can enter and rearrange the furniture. No, if you want your life to change, you must guard your mind like a temple. You must become more selective with what enters you, because everything enters twice. First as a thought, then as a reality. You do not need to control the whole world. You do not need to fix everyone. You do not need to answer every criticism, explain every choice, prove your worth to every doubtful eye. You need to return to your center. That is where your power lies. That is where your stability waits. You keep looking for the key outside, but the lock is inside. You keep searching for signs in the world while ignoring the signals in your own spirit. The tension in your chest, the restlessness in your sleep, the irritation you carry into small moments. These are not random. They are messages. They are telling you that you have drifted too far from yourself. A tree does not ask the forest for permission to grow. It grows because growth is its nature. But imagine if that tree spent all its time looking sideways. Imagine if it measured its worth against every other tree. Imagine if it refused to deepen its roots because it was too obsessed with how it appeared above the ground. The first storm would destroy it. That is what happens to people who build their life on image instead of substance. The first criticism shakes them. The first delay weakens them. The first rejection makes them question everything. Why? Because they were never rooted. They were performing strength, not practicing it. Real strength is quiet. It does not need applause. It does not announce itself every hour. It is built in the invisible moments. In the mornings when you choose discipline over excuses. In the evenings when you sit with your discomfort instead of escaping it. In the moments when nobody is watching and you still decide to act with integrity. That is where a person is forged, not in the spotlight, in the silence, not when life is easy, when every part of you wants to quit and you continue anyway. Many people want the rewards of focus without the sacrifice of focus. They want the peace but not the boundaries. They want the progress but not the patience. They want the transformation but not the repetition. But life does not work that way. Everything meaningful asks something from you. If you want a strong body, it asks for training. If you want a calm mind, it asks for stillness. If you want a clear path, it asks for honesty. If you want a powerful life, it asks you to stop leaking your energy into things that weaken you. And let us be honest. Some of you are tired, not because life is too hard, but because you keep making life harder than it needs to be. You keep returning to what hurts you. You keep reopening doors that should have stayed closed. You keep checking on people who disturb your peace. You keep feeding the same insecurity and then acting surprised when it grows. You say you want to move on, but your attention stays trapped in what is gone. You say you want better, but your habits keep voting for less. It is not enough to desire a different life. Your daily actions must agree with your words. Every distraction has a cost. Every moment of comparison has a cost. Every hour spent chasing validation has a cost. Every compromise with your higher self has a cost. The tragedy is that many people pay these prices without realizing it. They think they are only wasting a little time. But time is never little. A day is a life in miniature. How you spend your hours is how you shape your destiny. If your days are ruled by impulse, your future will be ruled by regret. If your days are ruled by purpose, your future will begin to reflect peace. You do not become focused by accident. You become focused by training your mind to obey your values instead of your moods. This is where most people lose. They live from feeling to feeling. If they feel motivated, they move. If they feel uncertain, they stop. If they feel criticized, they collapse. If they feel tempted, they surrender. But your feelings are weather, not direction. They change. They pass, they rise and fall. If you build your life on them, your life will always be unstable. You need something deeper than feeling. You need principle. You need discipline. You need a reason that remains even when comfort disappears. There is a version of you that already knows this. A version of you that is tired of self-betrayal. A version of you that is done negotiating with weakness. A version of you that wants to wake up with clarity and sleep with dignity. But that version cannot lead your life as long as you keep giving the microphone to fear. Fear is loud, but it is rarely wise. Fear will tell you to wait until you are ready. Fear will tell you to keep everyone happy. Fear will tell you not to change because people might misunderstand you. Fear will tell you to stay small because small feels safe. But a small life is not a safe life. It is a slow death of possibility. Look at the moments when you felt most alive. Was it when you were pleasing everyone? Was it when you were scrolling through the lives of others? Was it when you were overthinking every move? No, you felt most alive when you were fully present, when your mind, body, and spirit were aligned, when you were committed, when you were absorbed in something real, when you were not divided against yourself. This is why focus feels powerful, because focus reunites you with yourself. A scattered mind cannot create a steady life. A reactive heart cannot build lasting peace. A person who is available to everything becomes owned by everything. This is why boundaries are not selfish, they are sacred. Every strong life is built on what it refuses to entertain. You must learn to say no without guilt. No to draining conversations. No to endless comparison. No to habits that numb you. No to obligations that pull you away from your purpose. No to people who only remember you when they need access to your energy. No to your own inner excuses when they dress up as logic. You are not here to be endlessly available. You are here to become who you were meant to become. That requires solitude, that requires silence, that requires difficult honesty. You cannot hear your deeper wisdom if your life is full of noise. You cannot know what matters if you are addicted to stimulation. Many people fear being alone, because when the noise disappears, they meet themselves and they do not always like what they see. They see the discipline they have avoided. They see the pain they have buried. They see the truth they have postponed. But this is not a punishment. This is a doorway. What you are unwilling to face will continue to control you. What you have the courage to face will begin to lose its power. Do not run from the mirror. Stand before it, not the mirror that reflects your face, the mirror that reflects your habits. Ask yourself, where is my life leaking? Where do I abandon myself? What patterns keep repeating because I refuse to learn? Where do I seek comfort instead of growth? Where do I pretend not to know what I clearly know? These questions are uncomfortable because truth is sharp, but truth is also clean. Confusion is exhausting. Truth may sting, but it frees when you begin to focus on yourself in the right way. Not in selfish obsession but in disciplined responsibility. Something remarkable happens. Your standards rise. Your speech changes. Your posture changes. Your decisions become cleaner. You stop needing to react to everything. You stop needing to win every argument. You stop needing to be seen by people who cannot recognize depth anyway. You begin to conserve energy. You begin to move with intention. And slowly, almost quietly, life starts responding differently to you. Not because the world suddenly became fair, but because your inner state stopped creating unnecessary friction. The person who cannot sit with himself will always need the world to distract him. The person who cannot guide herself will always be guided by trends, by pressure, by fear of missing out, by the emotions of the crowd. But crowds are rarely wise. Crowds move from excitement to outrage, from obsession to boredom, from praise to blame. If you let the crowd shape your mind, you will never know peace. Peace requires rootedness. Rootedness requires inner authority. Inner authority requires self-mastery. Self-mastery does not mean perfection. It means you are no longer a stranger to your own patterns. It means you can feel anger without becoming its weapon. It means you can feel sadness without losing your direction. It means you can feel temptation without obeying it. It means you can feel fear and still take one step forward. This is what maturity looks like. Not the absence of struggle, but the refusal to be ruled by it. You are not weak because you feel deeply. You are weak only when you let every feeling drive your choices. Sensitivity can become wisdom if it is disciplined. Pain can become strength if it is understood. Failure can become instruction if ego does not interfere. But most people would rather protect their ego than grow their character. They want to look right more than they want to become right. They defend the very patterns that are destroying them. They explain their procrastination. They romanticize their chaos. They normalize their lack of discipline by calling it personality. But your habits are not your identity. They are your conditioning. And conditioning can be changed. The life you want will require a version of you that your current habits cannot sustain. Think about that carefully. The peace you want will require stronger boundaries. The confidence you want will require repeated courage. The body you want will require consistency. The purpose you want will require sacrifice. The respect you want will require integrity. The stability you want will require patience. You cannot demand from life what your character is not ready to hold. This is not punishment. This is balance. So stop asking why it is taking so long while protecting the same distractions that keep you delayed. Stop saying you want more while serving less. Stop speaking about potential as though potential owes you something. Potential is only a possibility. Practice is what gives it shape. The world is full of talented people living undisciplined lives. Talent impresses for a moment. Discipline changes a lifetime. There are days when the work will feel invisible. Days when you will wonder whether your effort matters. Days when the old life calls your name in a seductive voice. Days when comfort will look more attractive than growth. On those days, remember this. Every act of focus is a vote for the person you are becoming. Every interruption resisted is a form of strength. Every unnecessary attachment released is an opening for freedom. Every disciplined morning plants something in the future. You may not see it today. Roots are hidden before fruit appears. Do not despise the hidden stage of growth. The unseen work is often the most important work. The seed beneath the soil looks like nothing to the impatient eye. But inside it, life is organizing. Inside it, a direction is forming. Inside it, power is gathering. In the same way, when you sit in silence, when you return to your practice, when you choose restraint, when you study instead of seeking applause, when you train while nobody notices, you are not doing nothing. You are becoming unshakable. The world has trained many people to think that constant movement equals progress. But movement is not always progress. Sometimes movement is escape. Sometimes business is avoidance. Sometimes talking about the plan is a substitute for living it. You do not need more noise around your goals. You need more devotion to them. A river carves through stone not by forceful drama, but by steady persistence. There is a quiet power in repetition. There is a hidden authority in consistency. The world often overlooks it at first, then later calls it greatness. And understand this well. Focusing on yourself is not abandoning others. It is refusing to abandon your responsibility. A person who has no center becomes a burden to everyone. A person who cannot regulate his own mind spreads confusion. A person who has not made peace with herself projects chaos into every relationship. But when you are grounded, when you are disciplined, when you are honest with yourself, your presence becomes cleaner. You do not need to dominate. You do not need to perform. You begin to help, simply by being stable. Some people will not like your focus. They benefited from your distraction. They enjoyed your availability when you had no boundaries. They felt comfortable when you were uncertain, because your uncertainty made them feel less threatened by their own stagnation. The moment you become clear, some will call you distant. The moment you become disciplined, some will call you extreme. The moment you stop entertaining nonsense, some will say you have changed. Yes, you have changed. That is the point. You were not born to remain in a version of yourself that keeps betraying your peace. Let people misunderstand your silence if they must. Let people create stories about your boundaries if they need to. Not everyone deserves an explanation. A mature person learns that clarity is more important than popularity. Protecting your path will sometimes look rude to those who profit from your confusion. That is not your burden to carry. The sun does not apologize for rising. The mountain does not apologize for standing firm. Why should you apologize for choosing alignment over chaos? There is a huge difference between loneliness and aloneliness. Loneliness is emptiness. Aloneness is space. Loneliness makes you desperate for distraction. Aloneness gives you room to hear your own soul. Learn to sit in your own company without reaching for escape every few minutes. Learn to eat one meal without your phone. Learn to walk without noise in your ears. Learn to breathe without rushing to fill the silence. These small moments retrain your mind. They teach you that peace is not boring. Peace only feels unfamiliar to a nervous system addicted to stimulation. When your inner world becomes less crowded, your outer world begins to reorganize. You see people more clearly. You notice who drains you and who strengthens you. You notice which habits bring clarity and which leave residue. You notice how much of your suffering was self-created by poor boundaries, by undisciplined attention, by attachment to outcomes you could not control. Awareness does not fix everything instantly, but it changes your relationship with everything. And once the relationship changes, the future begins to change. You cannot control who leaves. You cannot control who doubts you. You cannot control delays, rejection, unfairness, or the timing of every outcome. But you can control the condition of your own mind. You can control whether you feed bitterness or resilience. You can control whether you wake up as a victim of yesterday or a student of it. You can control whether you wait for life to motivate you or train yourself to move without applause. These choices seem small in the moment. They are not small. They are identity shaping. A disciplined life is not a prison. It is a release from inner slavery. Think of how many people say they are free while being controlled by their impulses, by their cravings, by the need to be liked, by the fear of being left out, by the inability to sit still, by the urge to check, to consume, to react, to escape. That is not freedom. Freedom is being able to choose what truly serves you, even when something else seduces you in the moment. Freedom is being able to walk away from what weakens you, no matter how familiar it feels. Some of the hardest battles in life are invisible. They happen in the seconds between impulse and action, in the space between emotion and response, in the quiet decision to remain committed when nobody would blame you for quitting. Never underestimate these moments. A life is built there. Character is built there. Destiny is bent there. The person you become is shaped less by big dramatic events and more by repeated private decisions. The decision to get up, the decision to tell the truth, the decision to stay with the work, the decision to stop stalking what hurt you, the decision to forgive without reopening the door, the decision to train when excuses sound intelligent, the decision to rest without becoming lazy, the decision to keep your standards when loneliness tries to bargain with them. This is how transformation actually happens, not through one emotional breakthrough, but through many quiet acts of self-honor. And yes, there will be seasons when everything feels slow, seasons where you are doing the right things and results still have not appeared. This is where many people lose faith. They mistake silence for failure. But not all silence is emptiness. Some silence is preparation. The arrow must be pulled back before it moves forward. The body must recover before it grows stronger. The night must deepen before dawn arrives. Timing is part of discipline too. Not every answer comes quickly. Not every reward arrives on your preferred schedule. Patience is not passive. Patience is strength under control. When you stop forcing life and start fortifying yourself, you become less desperate. Desperation clouds judgment. It makes wrong people look right. It makes temporary things look permanent. It makes you chase instead of choose. But a centered person does not chase what is not aligned. A centered person prepares, observes, acts, and lets life reveal what belongs. This is not indifference. This is trust built on discipline. Ask yourself who you become when nobody is praising you. Who are you when there is no reward yet, no recognition, no reassurance? That is your real foundation. Anyone can appear committed when the path is easy and the results are immediate. The real test is whether you remain faithful when the process is ordinary. Can you repeat the simple things with care? Can you keep your mind clean when no one would know if it was polluted? Can you stay humble while becoming stronger? Can you stay focused while others are entertaining themselves into weakness? There is so much power in becoming hard to disturb, not cold, not numb, stable. A lake reflects clearly when the surface is calm. But when the surface is agitated, everything becomes distorted. Your mind is the same. If every comment disturbs you, if every inconvenience throws you off, if every delay poisons your attitude, then you are living at the mercy of external conditions. Learn to become internally anchored. Learn to pause before reacting.